Yeah.
Okay, great. We became really great friends and collaborators, and it was very gracious of her to make me a part of this endeavor when she came out with this idea of a book of beginnings. And we had a tiny but really rock solid team with our typesetter Sal, who is an exceptional artist and was so patient. Our very meticulous copy editor Olivia Calderon, and what we aimed to create was a book of beginnings, based to capture or in its all its shades. Beginnings can be messy, they can be scary, they can be really happy, they can be so much, and that's exactly what we wanted our book to speak about. And thanks to 47 wonderful writers, we now have an anthology that's not only everything what we'd hoped for, but it's so much more. It's so rich, it's mysterious, it's heartwarming, it's intriguing. And just, you can call me biased. I think it's perfect. And yeah, sorry, it's just a very biased opinion, but I think it's absolutely perfect. And I would just like to take this opportunity right at the beginning to thank all our writers who put in so much work, who trusted us with their stories. And um, it's a great honor for us to publish such diverse voices that stand for the truth, that stands for the power of the free word in a very polarized world. And it just keeps our belief that we must keep writing in what we believe in.
If anyone's not able to hear, just send a message to the Red Bean Poetry contact through the chat option, please. And if we could just keep our mics muted for the rest of the performances, unless you're a reader. Thanks. Go ahead, Vidisha.
Okay,
Sorry.
yeah, so yeah, we would love to begin by hearing Olivia read out her note from the editor that's in the book. And I'd just like to introduce her. Olivia Thomakos is a writer and teacher from Ohio. She completed her MSc in creative writing at the University of Edinburgh and currently works with Forest Publishing and Wedgane Poetry Magazine. She was the poetry editor-in-chief of From Artist Seat Volume 7 and the recipient of the 2022 Grierson Verse Prize. And I'd just like to add that this year she has her book of poetry coming out with Stewart Books. So, Olivia?
Oh, wow. Oh, I'm so sorry, everyone. This is really unfortunate that we. I'd just like to say thank you for attending the event. And whoever's doing the interruptions, it's really quite distracting and rude.
I think we have people that are pranking right now.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a few different
It's
ones.
the account named Annie. I don't know if anyone
There's
else
an
can see
account
that.
named Annie and there's an account
Yeah.
named Stacey.
There's two accounts named Amy, so that's just one. Not that
Well,
many.
obviously,
The real
obviously
Amy
not
is-
not Annie Bashaw.
Oh,
but
yeah.
No.
Okay, we'll try and take these people off the call.
We're really sorry for this. So sorry.
Don't be, please.
Okay. Thanks, Claire, for all your hard work behind the scenes. We really appreciate it. Okay, I think I'll try and read now. This is my note from the editor. And yeah, I just want to thank whoever's on the call. You need to log off now. That language is inappropriate and not acceptable. especially not at something like this. This is a reading to celebrate poetry and people, and whoever is trolling on the account, please leave. Thanks. Yeah, I'll read the note from the editor the best I can. The collection you're encountering sparked from a provocation. What if we wrote about the start of things? The idea morphed from a piece theme to a workshop to a zine. We kept asking that tenacious question, which inevitably kindles a new beginning. What if? The writers in this anthology collide with questions themselves. What if spring never comes? What if the scar shows? What if it all really is just coincidence? In searching, they explore a foreign realm, inspect a snowflake, strike a match. Editing this anthology allowed me to exist in many worlds. Here you will find mineral and flint for 1,000 new fires to catch. So bring forth your wick, your oil lamp, your scented candle, or perhaps your gas stove, dead leaves, or illegal fireworks. I can't wait to see what lights. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Olivia, for that lovely start. And now I'm very excited to move into our readings. Like I said, we have 8 incredible writers today, and we will be starting with Musenga Katongo. Musenga Katongo is a Zambian poet, copywriter, award-winning creative entrepreneur, 4-time Poetry Slam champion, TEDx performer, and an award-nominated author. He's the founder of Color Culture Arts, a creative platform that educates young people about Zambian culture and history through poetry and visual arts. He successfully won 4 poetry slams in Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Scotland, and is the author of 2 poetry books, the award-nominated Memento Mori and Clocks and Candles. He received the Cultural Achievement Award from the Zambian government for his contribution to arts in Zambia in 2020, and was later nominated for the Writer of the Year in the Zambian Man of the Year Awards 2022. Musenga has collaborated with various creatives across the UK. He's participated in the British Council-supported DigiPoems in 2019 and 21, performed at the BBC Contains Strong Language Festival, the I Festival, and Edinburgh Festival Carnival, to mention a few. Yeah, so.
Hello, good evening. Can you get me? Great. Thank you so much for the introduction, and I'm so glad I could be here. It's also really exciting that I get to read from my contribution to the book. I guess I'll let the story speak for itself as I read through. So yeah, let's do this. Perhaps my pride was never so clear than when I imagined I could roam the stars. The visor of my helmet is cracked, my ship in need of repair, and my hope as minuscule as the grains of sand I tread on. It was only after wandering an uninhabited planet did I realize it was foolish to have faith. My mission saw me traverse the stars in search of a new world. I remember the crisp morning when I burst through the Earth's atmosphere and engaged the hollowness of space. I was a lone astronaut on a rocket with an otherworldly destination. I was sent off on this mission with prayers and well wishes, as though our universe isn't ordered by the laws of physics, but instead by the hand of an imaginary being. As I sped through the blackness of space, I assumed I would pass by heaven's gate and pay Kawumba a visit, so I could ask him why he's been so busy and too busy for mankind. There was no sight of the pearly gates, so instead I relished the fact that I was kilometers upon kilometers away from Pamela. See, the possibility of exploring deep space once drove me towards her embrace, but now it drives me away. I prefer it like that. After all, The home we built together became no more than a house we slept in. She was caught up in her pursuit of grandeur to the point of abandoning the pursuit of our own relationship. You see, I had a mission and a duty to mankind. With our seas rising and the land overheating, my responsibility was to explore a new home world for my people. We learned of how wealthier nations were prepared to settle on new worlds, abandoning the have-nots to burn in the world they destroyed. I could only imagine the worlds the Europeans found for themselves, more so the Americans and the Asians, and how they saved the best for themselves. I was the only African crazy enough to adorn a spacesuit and think I could find my people a new home. So there I was, exploring its windy terrain of white sand, visualizing what the land could be when my people would occupy it. In all this, my dearest wife still sought to establish herself in a dying world, climbing a corporate ladder planted on an infirm ground. In her own way, I believe she's trying to be my equal, but we're not equals, we'll never be. With the wind hammering the visor of my spacesuit, the crack enlarged more and more. In no time, sand that blew through the wind began to seep through the crack. My visor burst open, scarring my face as my suit began to fill with sand. Dropping to my knees, I picked out the shards of glass lodged in my face while spitting out sand. I was blinded for the moment before I noticed the scent of the air. A flowery fragrance rushed into my nostrils and gassed my chest. My eyes, nose, mouth, and ears filled up with sand, and I found myself being buried within my own suit. My ears grew deaf, and my eyes only saw darkness. Only my nose could catch a whiff of the flowery fragrance of that planet's air. I was a dead man. In no time, the hope of my continent would be gone. Pitch black, dead silence, no sense of touch, no scent of the air, no taste of sand. My senses were mute. Did I die? Was this what death feels like? With no world around me to grasp, my hearing was restored when I suddenly heard the sound of someone gently exhaling. The calmness of the exhalation was followed by an intense burst of white light. I could see again. The white light expanded across a black plain, and from it, smaller balls of light popped out like fireworks forming celestial bodies. I watched the sun form and the moon take shape while the stars were like little sparks splattering across a black canvas. I never once bothered my questions of where mankind originated from. You see, such questions seemed frivolous compared to discovering what we were meant to do on Earth. I believed I bore witness to the Big Bang before my very eyes, before another sound of calming exhaling ordered white light to consume me. And in a matter of seconds, my spacesuit flooded with water, and I found myself submerged in a vast sea. I was then lifted out of the water by the ground that rose from beneath me. I will end here for now.
Thank you so much, Musenga, for that lovely reading. I remember when you had emailed your piece, there was a little note that said it was inspired from a lot of narratives about the origin of the universe in traditional Zambian religions. And I did go into the piece with that note in my mind, but I found that there was so much, this really powerful contemporary critique within the piece that just made me love it so much. So thank you so much for being a part of this. I said so much way too many times, but okay. We move on. We'll now move on to our next reader, Liam-Lucille. Liam-Lucille is a trans non-binary poet from Strasbourg, France, currently studying a PhD in creative writing on queer eco-poetry at the University of Edinburgh. They enjoy experimental writing about queerness, ecology, cats, birds, and dreamscape environments, sometimes all at once. Liam-Lucille has been published in From Arthur's Seed, Volume 7, issues 5 and 6.5 of Orange Peel Literary Magazine, Ouch Collective, Volume 2, Beyond the Veil Press Anthology, Volume 6, and most recently in Origin Stories. They can occasionally be spotted reading at poetry events all over Edinburgh.
Hi. Yeah, no, it's so nice being here. Yeah, no. Oh, I was wondering if you could share the visuals of the poems. Okay, my cat is tearing my room apart. Thank you. Oh, and I was hoping we could start with What Won't Return, if that's okay. I think the order was What Won't Return, then Blackford Babel, then Queer as Night, and then Returning and Remaining, I think. Thank you. Cheers. Okay. So this is called What Won't Return. This is the poem in the anthology. And I suppose sort of the idea behind writing it for me was just sort of tying together the notion of climate change with I guess childhood nostalgia, but also just a sense of growing up and growing past childhood in a sense and missing it. Yeah, and sort of I guess playing with that melancholy a fair bit. So yeah, this is What Won't Return. Sucking up the sludge of melted ice cubes in lemonade, nostalgia breezes onto my tongue. I recall chewing snow, the numb minty grip bracing the back of my teeth as a child. Every year a new flavor scooped into growing hands. The glovefuls got thinner, crystals smaller in my palms. Now they never settle on my fingers or in the nooks of my brain, thawing away in ever milder winters. My knees will never vanish into damp cotton again. Now the closest I can get is ice snapping underfoot. I swig the last drops, pictures of tracks in 3-foot deep drifts, sliding away with my drink. I stand, the earth far frailer, and my legs much heavier than they ever were before. Thank you. This next one is called Blackford Babel. Yeah, the idea behind this one, so I wrote this one as part of my thesis, but I sort of, yeah, I went out to Blackford Pond and I wanted to try to like spell out as many ambient noises and bird calls and sort of quarter-herd conversations as I could. And yeah, it was just sort of a fun challenge, sort of trying to transcribe things that are mostly just not in any human language. Yeah, and then I sort of, in the poem itself, I sort of toyed with the idea of, you know, gradually losing comprehensibility and the poem gradually becoming less about meaning and more about just playing with sound and aesthetics and sort of, I guess, yeah, retaining a notion of like playing pretend like a child would, kind of. But yeah, this is Blackford Babel. Blackford Pond, Edinburgh, 3:25 to 4:50. Calling it into itself from the reed-strewn silver lung of water, from taupe soil, from tarmac paths, from the moss green of crocuses, ferns, and graffiti-adorned bins, from leafless trees, synapsing branches out to the amber-blushed mist. A tongue endures, many-pronged and meaningless, enraptured in its unknowable curls, trills, and hums. The back thrum of Cluny Garden traffic swells and recedes. Behind the manic screams of gulls teeming over the pond, bursting out and vanishing. Des êtres en eux-mêmes, brief muddled vestiges screeching themselves to life. Flood, 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 murmure le caoutchouc, des semelles sur le chemin. Whoops a moorhen, part seen in the thicket of the mire. A breath, a lengthening sigh, une oreille qui parle à sa bouche. Like a man-made, nature-made, what a quarter-herd babillage behind the col de la hill. Se fragmente de freux amidst les conifères. Everything becoming étranger, devenant. New lungs exhaling des voix of bird legs through fallen leaves. It rattles caché to itself. À toi, to us, nous, some mallards squabbling sur les rives. We are bats and water boatmen. Quelle pêche. Nous sommes gibi, gibi. Can I have the next page, please? Thank you. There's one more page of this. Ooh. Thank you. Gibi, gibi. Blackbird, unseen, and human lèvres murmure muddy bliss, jumbled à plein cœur. Gabifus? I don't. Oh, okay. We moorhen again. Rouge-gorge de cry. Arbre glouglout, pigeon rouspette, to us themselves, wishing to hear we love. That. That's Blackford Fable. Thank you. And by the way, thank you so much for handling the slides. I realize it's a little bit back and forthy, but yeah, this next one is called Queer as Night. Yeah, the idea behind that one is that it's taken from a walk I had along Princess Street, sort of late at night in, I want to say, oh, that must have been sort of early October, I think. But anyway, yeah, I took a bunch of photos of it, and I decided to sort of toy with the idea of nighttime and the darkness of the night sky as I don't know, as an extended metaphor for I guess queerness and queer bodies trying to exist in spaces that are just not accommodating or welcoming or outright hostile to them. And yeah, I guess in that dynamic, sort of traffic lights and you know, concrete and hard city, hard glaring cityscape elements would be sort of the restraining and hostile forces, I guess, in that dynamic. Yeah, and I wanted to sort of map that out on the page as well and have the poem itself be sort of squished and contorted by those elements. So yeah, this is Queer as Night. Walk along Princess Street, Edinburgh, 7:35 to 8:50. I flit in the mid-spaces, try to find room in gaps unfilled by aluminium, asphaltene, steel, maltine, glaring moons pulled in straight lines. Here, the lights push deep in my skin, anglers biting, sodium carbonate clawing at my body, morphing my innermost anatomy. My ephemera are pinched, my subtleties are squeezed, and my undefinition is squashed between walls of rigid light. Halogen, polyvinyl chloride, LEDs, polycarbonate glass leave no space for what sparks within me. Nameless stars, glowworms, blinking promises of strange, soft love. I am unrecognized. I will not fit neatly into traffic lanes and parking spaces. I cannot be broken down for parts. So I'm battered by railing, pierced by lampposts, and buried under buildings. Deemed the enemy of order and normalcy. This normalcy of tarmac, transmission lines, and rigid, uncaring motion. Yet I can't help but flow loose, all-encompassing. Such is the essence of night. Somewhere unseen, free from the weight of stoplight flashes, badgers and foxes play in dark gardens. Thank you. And this final one is about grieving my cat Lulu, who recently passed away, and I had known her for, I'd known her for more than half my life, and she was and still is a sister to me. So losing her was incredibly hard and continues to be. But I suppose the notion behind the two poems here is just sort of bouncing between continuously moments that remind moments that remind me of her, and the moment itself, and how they call back and forth to each other. And I suppose in a sense that for me at least is the process of grief, and memory, and continuously being soothed by that call and recall, I suppose. So I'm going to start with returning at the top of the page, and then I will excuse me a second, sorry, and then I will move on to remaining. So returning. Waters of Leith, Edinburgh, 10 past 5 to 7 o'clock. 12 days since Lulu's passing. Mossy ash, beach, witness the weight of my approaching heart. They confide to Kingfisher, whose slow blinks opal, je t'aime, blue, Lulu's blue, to river, who echoes, her eyes shining through veil skin of water, of time. I love you, sibling. Je t'aime. And now this is remaining. The vet's guest room, Cronenbourg Est, 3:15 to 5:45, Central European time. Lulu's passing. My fur-covered pillow, garden forsythia, our gifts caress her. She clutches her soft toy. We embrace her. Children again. We love you. Her eye pierces, ever blue, shimmering, ever kitten smiles, eternal, as she sleeps. Je t'aime, ma sœur. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liam, and thank you for trusting the space and sharing your memories. And it was really beautiful. And just, I've been familiar with Liam's work before this, and I've always admired how visual and evocative their poetry is, and how just beautifully it falls on the page. And so thank you so much. Up next, we have Liz Parr. Liz is a member of the Oxpen Writing Crew, which meets weekly and is currently made up of women over 50 who write to help make older women's voices heard. The poem Golden Rain emerged from writing exercises about memoir, which the group worked on last year. She hails from Yorkshire originally, but has lived in Edinburgh for 13 years.
Good idea to unmute. Golden rain. Stone whitewash walls sag under the weight of age. Little fingers touch its curves from two metal beds resting on threadbare carpet. Outside, light summer rain falls. A little sister, ghost pale, huddles under yellow eiderdown, throat sore, belly aching from the stomach pump. It sucked away tiny golden peas sweetly seeded from the laburnum bush. Luscious sunshine blooms, lured a curious 6-year-old, then snapped her with poison. Outside, life continues. The rain stops, hens chatter, mother clucks, farm scents waft as summer drifts. When she wakes, my sister will read pencil scribbles on the white walls where I've written her story. And just a little note at the bottom of this. The common name of the laburnum is golden rain because of its hanging bunches of bright yellow flowers. The seeds are highly poisonous. I've got some other poems that are also from memoir. This one is about school days, which might resonate from people from a certain era who tackled school buses back in the 1970s. It's called The Fat Knotted Tie. I look hard, don't I, climbing the steps of the country bus in my fat knotted school tie, leap over obstacles of feet and bags, stretched out only to trip on a hockey stick en route to a seat. Tough out the sniggers and giggles, sly glances from the quiet ones. Swerve the troublemakers marauding at the back. Respect is coiled shades of blue around my white-collared neck, the knot distended. I stand a little prouder today. Lock black-eyed eyes with a fellow rebel, crumby coat clad, one of a gang to which I don't belong. All right, she says, and nods. The next one is about school holidays. Okay. School holidays. Summers long and hot. The Farnley Five escape, Enid Blyton style, down fields of wiry green grass. Dodging dry dung puddles to adventure at the dump, that gold mine for bored youth. We find a car crash of broken engines, a Hillman imp in 60s blue amid the carnage of barbed wire, spiking bored redundant tyres. Then a splendid find. A woodworm-ridden old school desk, wearing years of blue ink stains and academic indifference. We liberate it on rutted tractor tracks to the farm where my father's red scabbed hands are good at fixing things, where he gently places machines onto warm udders, twice a day, every day in lonely cowsheds. My final poem really it's not a memoir, it could be any time, anywhere, but it's Memories of Summer. So it's called Eulogy for a Summer Day Just Gone. Watery grey light gives way to a new day. Rose petals unfold. The cat stretches languid, soaking up high sun. Feet shuffle in shifting sands. Feathery breath just catches light breeze, carries with it secrets of the living, sweet kisses of loving. Darkening skies shift to shade, stars soothe. Temporary respite for the dying day. We light a fire. That's me.
Thank you so much, Liz. Just this morning, I wanted to just read all the works of the people who are presenting our readers. And I think you have such an incredible way of talking about colors and sensory details and just seasons. I live in a room that's on a roof. It's a roof and it's a room. So I felt really connected with it's just the world outside, and which otherwise can get quite lonely. So that was lovely. Okay.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Zebib. Zebib K. Abraham is a writer and psychiatrist. She's been published in Clark's World, Fantasy Magazine, The Rumpus, Podcastle, and JMWW, and more. She's represented by Carleen Geisler at Art House Literary Agency. She can be found on Blue Sky at @PegasusUnder, Instagram at @PegasusUnder, and at zkabraham.com.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to the readers and writers so far. Really evocative, inventive work that is amazing. And also thank you to Olivia and Vidisha for dealing with the troll and keeping this going. We're all awesome. Yay. So I'll read a poem from the anthology and then a flash fiction piece, which I'll share the link in the chat. This poem is called A Blue New Year. The years of growing older were blue chapters. Anticipated years have now come and gone. Mornings waking up on crusted pillows, Once a child's slumber, dreaming, then older, older still, a post-party headache to remember. Every year, I'm still a clumsy fool. Then, now, later, we cradle the burnt ends of fingers. We are too nervous, too lost in thought. After this, after those hours I spent astral traveling to a forever flowing green, as the suckling leaves flew by the car window on long rides, listening to the drone of those sometimes warm, sometimes blistering adults. We imagined our future shapes, and I imagined forever curving lines shaping my flesh. I wished, I tried to manifest. The years passed by in accidents, losses. Our whispered spells came to nothing. They were meant for a perpetual later. We learned the boundaries of flesh, color, desire, what made us ashamed. We gazed into the well for too long. When we finally arrived here, it was a soft landing, a silent passing from then to now. True and false wisdom mingled in the late hours, and we found our bravery, sometimes a dull sword, still to be sharpened. Looking up, the ceiling finally cracked open and let through a soft blue light. Thank you. And let me just share this. This is a piece I'd published in JMWW, and I will time myself so I can read as much of it as I can in 5 minutes. So this flash piece is called The Basket. My mother called me to gossip about my father. Given his post-retirement apathy, my mother was surprised when he found the energy to clean the garage. He threw away all their old crockery and bleached towels. He threw away her lace wedding dress. He threw away legless Barbies and collectible toy cars. He threw away a complete collection of the book series Animorphs, a few broken lamps, 25 years of saved Christmas cards. He threw away his own college diploma. A buzz filled my ears as if bees were building a hive in the wall. In a low voice, she mentioned he'd thrown away one particular box labeled Leia's things. Yes, it was all gone. He'd driven an hour to take it to the dump. I wasn't aware I could be so sentimental, but I started to cry. Stop, my mother said. You didn't remember that stuff anyway. You left it all behind. I slept with the basket in my arms. When I traveled across the world during a few itinerant years, I always brought it with me. Balancing it on varied windowsills, the basket and the buildings looked the same size. Woven threads of the basket's lid just as vast as the golden domes of mosques, the swirling minarets, looming over small houses with terracotta shingles. My great-aunt, the one who made this basket, lived in a bone-white cement house, where she hung many colorful baskets on the wall. She made the basket for me when I was a child, back in our home country. It was a rainy summer in East Africa, when everything smelled of spiced lentils and petrichor. I watched her weave at lightning speed. As I remembered it, many women huddled around her, handing my great-aunt rolls of cotton string, lifting the jebana cups so she could take sips of bitter coffee. They were weaving baskets that would last lifetimes. I remembered there being so many people. People stopped by to watch, or peeking out the windows of the house nearby. They were mesmerized, or maybe a bit of them was caught up and woven to the basket too. So even when those children and friends and neighbors were all gone, the string connecting them remained, holding the pattern in place. A royal blue, a crayon red, a canary yellow. I remember touching my tongue to the basket when I first received it. Only later did I remember what I tasted. Salty blue, dyed in the Red Sea, the red of mother's blood, a yellow baked in the sun. My aunt made many baskets, some of bamboo, some of dried grasses, but mine was made of soft cotton. She started with a bundle of string, looping it outwards from an intricate knot, out and out, again and again, blooming into a circle of alternating red and yellow and blue. It began to take shape, curving upwards. Did she work on it for hours, days, or weeks? She'd promised it to me. I didn't believe her. I was flying back in a few days. I missed the ease of America, its Coca-Cola and air conditioning. Finally, she beckoned me over and handed it to me. Caught between impulses, I tried to refuse the gift. No, she winked, then lay it across my small hands, planting sour breath kisses on each of my cheeks. Without remembering packing it, I would find it among my things. When I opened my suitcase on the first day of college, nauseous with freedom, I heard a humming just out of my awareness, a high throat-tightening note, just like those frenetic East African ululations. My roommate continued to chatter, but I stopped listening. When my fingers reached the textured cotton under the pile of linens, the sound stopped. My basket was once full of dust and old teeth and a tuft of my baby hair. After I heard of the things my father threw away, I wanted to be free of all attachment. I emptied the items from my basket into the palm of my hand and blew them out the window. I thought I could only move forward in departures, not returns. Yet one humid July night after I turned 35, my heart quivered as I lay down to sleep. My friends and I had picnicked in Prospect Park for hours. While sweating through my blue jean jumpsuit, I lifted their toddlers in the air, engaged in circular small talk about our aging foreheads, gotten woozy on salsa and Zinfandel. Against the pillow, a pressure vibrated in my head. Blood rushed through my ears. My breath was acidic. Sitting up, I turned myself around so I was laying the opposite way on my bed, like I had done as a child. Feet on the pillow, head on the foot, so the breeze from the open window could unfurl over my cheeks. I heard the sounds of the city far below and spotted my shadowed basket on the windowsill. Falling asleep, I dreamt an old dream. The great aunt with those brown hands, blooming with white spots, was weaving the basket. She looked at me and smiled, looked down at the basket, which had transformed into a baby of colorful string. I forgot my basket for a few years in the drawer of a secondhand mahogany cabinet. I'd been forgetting birthdays, the names of elementary school teachers, doctor's appointments. There were endless tasks and minor dramas that kept me distracted. I was a pile of loose threads. That's my alarm. I'll just finish it off. I had the old dream again and woke up gasping. After searching the whole apartment, I found it. The same soft texture under my fingers, those alternating colors like a familiar rhythm. I thought about seeing my great aunt after all those years. I could fly back home, learn to weave. But suddenly I remembered that she'd been dead a decade. A memory of my father crying in the basement came to mind. I should have shown him the basket and said, "Look, Dad, look what you made for me." I'd have opened it and shown him a chasm hundreds of feet deep, ending with an ancient, sparkling waterbed. A city in which we had all lived but never realized it, surprised to at last notice the others gathered there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zebib. That was so gorgeous. And I would just like to share that your poem has one of my most favorite lines in the anthology because it resonated with me so deeply when I first read it. And it's the part where you say, "And we found our bravery, sometimes a dull sword still to be sharpened." And that's so wonderful.
That was fucking awful.
Next, and actually it flows quite beautifully. We move on to Shelby. Shelby Schumacher is an American writer and photographer with an MSc in creative writing poetry from the University of Edinburgh. Her work has appeared in places such as Gypsophila, Outcrop Poetry, and Interpret magazine. She was also shortlisted for the 2022 Grierson Verse Prize. In her free time, she loves to explore new places and go on hikes with her dog, Janet.
Hello, everyone. And funnily enough, the poem that is published in this anthology is called Petrichor, which is kind of, as soon as I heard Zebib say that, I was like, I'm coming right after her. This is brilliant.
It wasn't that brilliant.
Petrichor. For lonely people, rain is a chance to be touched. Simon Van Buey. The little girl stands in the still street.
Hey, Shelby.
With the hum of rain around her. She waits for the clouds to crack open and drop like eggs, white and yolk. A mist gathers on the skirting of her skin, humidity carrying a millennia of stories. The blood of dinosaurs, that lake near Avalon, the water fountain at school. Histories swirl around her, waiting for this chance to whisper secrets into her dry hair. Her father was away again, not home to bake his famous pie, to shield her from the oncoming storm. She only had the empty street, dreams of dinosaurs and King Arthur, and the rumbling of angels bowling through the heavens. And I will move on to another piece that I wrote called Afterlife of a Tree. A rough-hewn table stood alone in the corner, smoothed by countless scrapings of pencils on paper, of nails tapping on her surface. What stories could she tell? Strangers' meals bled into her, staining her with juices of springtime berries, cream-based soups, and coffee cup rings like the dark side of a crescent moon. Moisture reminded of life lived a century prior. The first guest and everyone after did not pause to appreciate the knotted pattern that spoke of arms that had once reached out, aiming for the sky. They did not notice the grain that rivered down her center, rings of old that told of years her guests would never know. Most didn't care for her past, nor her dead and withering frame, worn by alternating neglect and concern. They only cared for what she could give, what she could still endure, a place to sit, to contemplate, to read the tattooed shavings of other dead trees. And the final piece that I'll read is entitled Ardkingless. It's off of a place in Scotland, actually. In a little hut in the forest, I gazed through windows to the outside. Rhododendrons blossomed amongst the kiss of silk breeze, and trees transplanted from continents that the insects only dreamed of had just begun buzzing beyond the wooden-framed portals. Past the entrance was a path that
Hey y'all, I'm back. Did you miss me?
Bringing visitors to lyrical streams that were fed by the scent of
Back.
fresh rain.
Don't turn you.
But the walls concerned me most, with their carvings and placards, odes to those who once told us, be kind to all living things, like the flower and her bees. They enveloped me in their rhythm, their hope, that future generations would care for the breeze and the trees and the insects just waking from winter slumber. I loved that little hut, inscribed with words. So as a good student, I settled for a while, on a bench at the center of it all, in that place where dead poets lived. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shelby. Yeah, Shelby was in the poetry cohort the same year I was in the prose cohort, and I think she's such an incredible gift about writing about memory and just the act of remembering and how it changes throughout life. So thank you so much for those lovely poems. We now move on to Italo. Italo Ferrante is a queer poet who earned a BA in English Literature and Creative Writing from the University of Warwick. To date, his work has been selected for publication by Poetry Salzburg, Impossible Archetype, Cardiff Review, Sage Cigarettes, Inflections Magazine, Lighthouse, and Orchard Lee Press. Recently, his poem, Ode to Abruzzo, has been shortlisted for the Oxford Brookes International Poetry Competition.
I don't see Italo still in the call. I'm not sure. Maybe they decided to go after we had the trolling.
Okay.
But if you want, I can read Italo's poem from the anthology.
Yeah,
Go to the next.
I was just about to say if you could do that, that would be great, because he was very excited to read.
Yeah, and everyone, I'm so sorry about the trolls. We're trying to take them off as soon as we see them. So if you see anyone log on and start, speaking with their microphone unmuted, feel free to just send a message to Red Bean Poetry and we can kick that person off. Italo's poem is called Spiral. And it's on page 30 if you have your anthology with you. Spiral. When we first met, you called me monstrous, onion shine, a puffy cat's eye, too concentric for origami magic. I blamed my mom. She drew me out with a compass And my dad, he fed me pig's milk until I was 6. I began to dream of a straight edge, squaring the circle and squashing heaven forever. I promised myself I'd skip one meal for each digit of pi. After a fracture of days, my spine doubled its axis, my shoulder blades moved tangent to your face, my stretch marks bore your initials, but you'd still find a snowflake more beautiful. Thanks to Italo for this poem.
Thank you so much, Olivia, for stepping in and reading it out. We wish you would have stayed, but well. We will move on to Tamara. Tamara is a graduate from the creative writing program from the University of Edinburgh. After working for a school in Seattle, she is now living in France and writing her first novel. She writes poems in response to news events, and this one in particular was directly inspired by the headline of a British newspaper, Prince Andrew pays settlement ending sex assault case. This poem contains trigger warnings and allusion to sexual abuse.
Thank you, Vidisha, for introducing me. Hi, everyone, and I'm really happy to be here and to hear all your beautiful poems. I've been loving this. And also, yeah, it's such a brave thing to share your poems. So thank you for all being brave tonight and doing this. So this first poem is the one that has been published in the anthology. And it's a poem that is a response to news headlines. And this one is a response to the Prince Andrew settlement scheme with Virginia Giroux. So yeah, it's called Deal. Some memories lie dormant in the moss green pond where I used to play with Peter. We'd catch tadpoles in clumsy hands. Mine shook the day he kissed me. I stood stiff as an oar in an empty canoe. His mouth humid as silt, his tongue wriggling like the tails of tadpoles. I pushed him into the pond. It made a splash, and I couldn't drop sugar in tea for a long time without thinking about it. When I came home alone, my mother knew. Peter's father rushed over, his son in wet clothes and wounded pride. They made a deal over cupcakes for my silence. But 2 decades later, none of these things matter, unless they're stagnating at the surface of the pond. Tadpoles have grown into frogs by now, frogs into princes. So yeah, this was the first poem. Thank you. I have other poems. Let's see what time I have. Sorry. Oh yeah, the next poem is an ekphrastic poem. So this one was published in Rattle Poetry. They do ekphrastic challenges every month. And so I first saw the picture. Oh, the next poem is called Aphorism Thrown into the Eye of the Blizzard. It's the second in line of the document. So I first saw the image. It's the image of a girl walking into a sort of light cyclone. So I think you'll see the image soon on the screen. I'll just begin reading. So it's called Aphorisms Thrown into the Eye of the Blizzard. A girl walks into a blizzard of waltzing lights. The other end of the tunnel is not as near as you think. 2. If you stare at the sun, you'll see a cyclops face. Ulysses and nobody are the same person. 3. A girl doesn't need to introduce herself to strangers. Men often forget to ask for permission. 4. A girl disappeared next door and was never found again. That is not true. She was found in a park. 5. She was found dead in a park behind buzzing bushes. Words and their order matter, 6. At Mass, the priest made everyone stand up and pray. Her coffin smelled like cheap wood. 7. Someone told me she now lives in the sky. I do not believe they got it right. 8. So Ulysses said nobody with the confidence of a lying man. And the witnesses saw nobody. They saw nobody in a park. 9. I'm almost sure where she lives now. Please let it not be behind baseboards or sprung floors. 10. The sun is as round as bellies can get. There are as many stars as versions of what happened. 11. One version is my favorite, and it goes like this. A girl walks into a blizzard of waltzing lights. Thank you. Yeah, I'll go with, let's see which poem. Okay, I'll go with, okay, yeah, this one, my preferred version of the truth. This one I was inspired by my time in Vienna in Austria, which is a very poetic place to be, I guess. My preferred version of the truth. The crickets go silent in their pool of black grass as we enter the MoMA park. We are two insects caught in the digesting night. Our second date in Vienna, you inquire after my double origins. You ask if it's true. Do French like baguettes as much as Germans like war? I feel the need to defend a great-grandfather I've never met. I introduce him as a mechanical engineer, my preferred version of the truth. He died firing cannons for the Nazi army, replaced by someone who fired them from a new angle, and don't tell me it didn't make a difference on the front. Isn't it all about the angle of things? The picture you took during you leave, me in a roadside field of monk shoes. If you lifted the camera, you'd see a hornet nest above my head. Earth's tilt, making this night full as things can possibly be. Your question hangs unpolished in the tangible air. Around us, the infantry of crickets chirping again. Thank you. So I have time for one more poem. Yeah, I guess we'll go with How the World Ends, which is a very dramatic title, but I love dramatic things. So, How the World Ends. At night, I dream of a hand, soft, godly, descending towards a cave. This is where the longing for life begins. Caves and wombs, open palms laid bare. Say nothing biblical ever happened. Now say it did. Say Noah on his boat squeezed his wife's hand, promising her it'd be over soon. Say they counted the clouds above their heads, spoke to God, told him how unoriginal this flood is. We've seen the world end 100 times. We've pulled the thread backwards as many times as mankind allowed. We've been people in nylon tents, hands reaching out for food and still not believing it was over. Not quite yet. This is what Noah must have told his wife. There are still some steps to take. First, we'll exchange a few words, delicately, like stones put around bodies. Then we'll stand tall on the bow, watching water swallow itself and spit everything else out. Animals, words, our idea of God. In the turmoil, a hand reaches out, black, bold, and shuts my eyes closed. I wake covered in sweat. This is my story of origins. The dark, the flood, lips pursed for goodbye. the sudden, violent urge to scream in the tumult that have made it this far. Thank you, everyone for listening to my poetry. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara, for your that incredible body of work. Just this morning, I was just running through the event flow with Olivia, and she said something which I felt so strongly even as you were reading, is your ability to take this incident that just seems far removed, but how you sort of bring it and just establish a more personal reality to it, which is so wonderful. And words and their order matter. That was beautiful and such an important thing to say. And now we move on to our final reader for this evening, Annie Bashaw. Annie graduated with her Master's in Creative Writing from the University of Edinburgh in 2022 and has publications in a few journals, including her most recent short story in West Trade Review. She's currently based in Washington, D.C., where she works as an engineer by day and writes middles and ends to those precious story beginnings by night.
Hi, everyone. First off, thank you so much to Olivia and Vidisha for putting all of this together. As always, we can't do it without you guys, and you've been amazing. So, and as the final reader, I have the privilege to be able to thank everyone who's gone before me and just say that your work has been beautiful, and I've really enjoyed listening to it. And reading through this journal has been an absolute pleasure. So, thanks for letting me also share. I have time to read the first part of this, so here I go. Dwelling. You'll step into my cornflower blue house and I'll ask you to take off your shoes. You'll listen, because you know this house is precious, and I will welcome you warmly. Around the foyer, you'll find familiar vestiges. Ethiopian? You'll ask, passing your fingers through the afterimage of me scarfing down seconds. You'll smile at another me in makeup, enjoying angel rays of sun, a rarity in a place with almost constant cloud cover. But this house isn't for the me I show outside, not only for that me. It's been a while since I last invited someone over, I'll say. Nerves will prod up goosebumps as if poking the underside of my skin. You'll say nothing and pass into a living room cluttered with breadcrumbs of my life. Exposed on my granddad's green lazy boy is the heap of blankets I never fold. There are stacks of books I say I'll get to, a heap of new hair clips I buy when I misplace the old ones in plain sight, a pile of mail I received, or wanted to receive. Half-finished crochet kits, pencils sharpened partway to the nub, collections of flat rocks and wonky sticks plucked from outside. The room will be full, on purpose. I hope it will distract you from my bad habits, stuck like chewed gum on unseen surfaces. Want to play Settlers of Catan? I'll ask when you get too close to a wad behind the couch. I'll open the closet and trinkets will spill out. Picture frames without pictures, concert tickets, broken drumsticks, my mom's old clarinet, a lock-picking set my dad gave me, glass animal figurines, chargers for lost devices, sticky note reminders to and from myself, my grandma's peppermint candies crystallizing in their wrappers, the coin collection my granddad started for me. You'll point to that one. You're missing a state. Granddad never found it. Did you ever try? No, I'll say. I'll tell you what I remember of him. His wheezing laugh, his snow cone recipe, him always letting me win at checkers. My parents said Granddad was a great man, but they also knew him before I was alive. In my memory, he remains unfinished. These coins are his eyes and the pads of his fingers. If you hold them within your cupped hands, you'll feel the weight of my love for him, a love I've started to lose among the mess. You'll say that's sad. I'll say it's not, because the collection is still here, withstanding the passage of time. I'll wonder if you will too. If you'll wriggle your toes and see how deep you can root yourself into the shag carpet. I'm hungry, you'll say, and I'll lead you to the kitchen, bright and warm. Spotlight windows will illuminate white cabinets, peach mosaic floors, and a mint-colored fridge. Who's that? You'll ask when you see a ghost of me with someone else. You'll ask why this person has no face, no weight, no height, why their hair grows and shrinks, shifts color, changes from rail straight to threaded kinks. I'll shrug and ask, do you want to make brownies? You'll step into the ghost of my chameleon friend. Something will stir within you. You'll feel their imprint. You'll want to make one too. You'll set a timer for the oven, a bit too long because you like crisp edges, probably. Most people do. Croissants pop out, the kind made from a Pillsbury tube that will have jolted me into you when it exploded upon opening. Even though that never happens, you'll say. Does it matter? I'll ask. It could have. Or maybe it will. I'll let you take the lead as you explore more folds of my house. You'll stumble over my spaniel, Buttercup, chasing a ball down the hallway. In the bathroom, you'll see my after image in the mirror, dyeing my hair, measuring my arms, my waist, my thighs, putting highlighter on my good days, and concealer on my bad. In the laundry room, you'll watch me shrink my shirts, shove my arms through the sleeves to stubbornly stretch them out again and ignore deodorant stains entirely. From the paned window on the stairs, you'll notice the changing scene outside. Avoiding cacti as I step through the American West, biking through humid heat waves with squeaky training wheels and a shredded pink flag on the back of my seat. Stumbling on unfamiliar cobbles, requesting hot dogs from the corner vendor, always extra relish. Snowshoeing in the mountains with frosting hair. I could go to any of these places and they wouldn't be the same, you'll say. I bet the mountains haven't changed much. But you aren't there. A pensive look will cross your face. It's strange. I'll never know the you before we met. And I'll never know these places when you were added to them. I'll think I understand, but I wonder if the person I was would have let you into my house so easily when it was many shades darker, both outside and in. I'll know you too aren't the person you used to be, but I'll hold the same yearning within my chest, wishing I knew you sooner. My heart will beat in your direction. Will you show me your soul? Later, you'll reply. I want to see the rest of yours first. I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Annie. I was so excited when you said you could read because I just thought your piece would be a perfect conclusion to the order because there's such a strong sense of place and just the messiness of sanctuary and how belonging can feel so different and it's beautiful. I love how your mind works. So thank you so much for sharing that. Well, that was our final reader, and we come to the end of this launch. Before we start logging off, just a very lot of important thanks are in order. So yeah, once again, Olivia and I, we're so happy that all our readers, friends, families, pets could make time and be a part of this event from just everywhere across the world. It's so incredible and it's so important to have these communities that can just nurture new voices and independent publishing. And in that vein, I would like to take the opportunity to thank Ryan Van Winkle at Forest Publishing, who's a fantastic poet, but most importantly, he's such a warm and giving creative mind, and he's just always let Olivia and me run wild with our ideas. He's been okay with us. And of course, to Tim for her guidance, Dr. Harry Josephine Giles, who wrote us a beautiful introduction, and Mohammed Tonzi, Jane Alexander, Bhavika Govel, and Claire Askew for their endorsements that went on the back of the glove. Of the cover, sorry. And finally to the amazing Claire Wallace, who was our tech support and person today, who did it on such short notice and was so wonderful with everything. Thank you so much, Claire. And yeah, I understand, I mean, everybody would have the copies of their book, but if you're still interested, we're posting the links to bookshops both in the UK and the US from where you could order your books. We love it if you do it from bookshops, but if you're somewhere where you can't access these resources, the anthology is available on Amazon. And on a personal note, this was my first time hosting, so thank you so much for being so gracious. And I'm sorry if I fumbled or at any point if any of you went like, okay, but thank you so much. And I just hope that all of us independently or just continue to be and build communities where we're compassionate and we can share our writing without anyone telling us what we should be or should not be. So have a great weekend, everybody, and thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. Thanks for hosting, Vidisha. Have a nice day, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. You rock. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to officially end the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you so much.